let's now look at an example where we have a forecaster, we have a decision analysis problem, and we're going to have to use Bayes' rule. So let's revisit this wood pellet plant example, okay, where the wood manufacturer has two decisions: build an additional pellet plant to satisfy demand, or just use the existing plant, don't bother building this new one. Suppose the manufacturer hires a forecaster to help with this decision. Okay, so here's our forecaster. Suppose the forecaster forecasts that there will be high demand in the future for these wood pellets. Okay. Should the manufacturer build that new plant based off of that forecast? Yes or no? So let's give some real numbers for this problem. And real is in quotations. It's a fairly simplified problem, so these are not entirely real. In the previous videos, we looked in more detail at this example where we were able, with a more complex kind of decision analysis problem, we were able to actually pull real numbers. This is going to be kind of somewhat of a fake example of that scenario. Okay, so let's say, for example, based off of past data and other intuition, the company guesses that there's a 90% chance of high demand for wood pellets in the next year. Okay, so let's say they're guessing there's going to be a 90% chance there's going to be lots of demand for wood pellets. Okay, and that gives us the following probability. Notice here I'm going to call high demand, the actual high demand, I'm going to call it high D. So that'll be 90%. So the opposite of that will be the 10%. So 10% of the time there won't be high demand. Okay, so P high D is going to be the probability of high demand for wood pellets. The probability of not high D is going to be the opposite of that, which will be that there is not high demand, or if you will, that there's going to be no change in demand or possibly a low demand. Okay. Carrying on here, based on past forecasts, where there's actual high demand, the forecaster has correctly predicted that 80% of the time. Okay, so in 80% of the cases where there was actually high demand, the forecaster said the same or predicted the same. So I'm going to call forecasted high demand, so the forecaster forecasting that high demand, I'm going to call it F high. So the forecaster, so given the amount of times, or out of the times that there is actually high demand, the forecaster forecasted high demand 80% of the time. So that means that the forecaster didn't forecast high demand 20% of the time. Again, where F high here is the forecaster forecasting high demand, F not high is the forecaster forecasting no change in demand or a decrease in demand. Okay, and now keeping going. Also based on past forecasts, when there was actually no increase in demand or where the demand decreased, then the forecaster correctly predicted that 65% of the time. Let's see what that looks like. So given that there was not high demand, the forecaster forecasted not high demand 65% of the time. So again, when there was not high demand, the forecaster forecasted not high demand 65% of the time, or forecasted correctly, if you will. And that means that 35% of the time, he or she forecasted high demand when there wasn't actually high demand. Okay, so again, F high means the forecaster forecasts high demand. F not high means the forecaster didn't forecast high demand, or if you will, forecasted no change or a decrease. And P not high demand means that there was no change or there was a decrease in demand. That's the probability of that occurring. Okay, carrying on here. Let's say that the forecaster now just forecasts that there will be high demand for those pellets. Okay. Again, what are the odds that he's right? So if he's right, that means that there will actually be high demand. So he forecasted high demand, there will actually be high demand. The odds of this are the following. Okay, now it may seem like we already have this probability. So given that he forecasted high demand, what are the odds of high demand? Well, we don't actually have that. What we actually have is the opposite of that. Given that there was high demand, the odds of him forecasting high demand were 80%. So we need to actually go calculate this guy. Again, we need to use Bayes' rule because we need to flip the condition, if that makes sense. We want F high in front, high D behind, or we want if you will, the forecast to come first, which is what will actually happen. Our forecaster will give us a forecast, and then from there, either there will be high demand or there won't after that. So again, we're going to use Bayes' rule to flip that condition or flip this probability.